This is Drew Gibson's first disc in his new company, Finish Line Discs. And while every other company is out there trying to make T-Birds or T-Bird clones, he chose something completely different to start out with. And I think we can all learn a little something from that choice, other than good business strategy. Let's talk about it. So if you don't know who Drew Gibson is, Drew is one of the top players on tour, top professionals on tour right now. He actually won the first event of the year, being the Las Vegas Challenge, and he is known for just he's just smooth and clean in his throw. He has one of the cleanest forms on tour, but he also has one of the biggest arms on tour. He's one of the furthest throwers of the disc out of all the professionals on tour. Now, a lot of people see that and they think, oh, Drew Gibson's a power thrower, he's a power player. And I would argue against that. I don't think he is a power thrower. He is more of a finesse player and a touch player. And the release of the Era kind of shows that, kind of proves that. Because if you look at just his go-to discs, like people see, oh, he throws a Buzz and he throws the Destroyer and he just bombs them. Oh, sorry, a straight mid-range. Just kidding. But they see that he throws a Buzz and he throws a Destroyer and he thinks, oh, he throws overstable stuff and he just mashes on them. He does mash on them, but if you look at them, they're not overstable discs. Like if you look at his Buzz, that orangish Buzz is really flippy for him. His go-to Destroyer, that Bama Destroyer, it turns a lot for him too, at least for him when he throws it over 500 feet. And what that means is he's not a power thrower. He doesn't like overpower stable discs to get his lines. He throws understable discs and he shapes them. He controls the flight and the angles of them to shape different lines all effortlessly. And that's the advantage of doing that. A lot of newer players, they think that, okay, the pros are throwing stable discs, like Buzzes are stable, Destroyers are stable, Felons are stable, Harps are stable, and they think that, okay, or T-Birds, they're stable as well. But they think, okay, well, they're throwing stable stuff. To be good, you need to be throwing stable stuff and be able to throw them. And that's not true. If you want to get good at playing disc golf, you need to be throwing understable discs and learn how to control them, control the angles, control the flights, and shape different lines with those less overstable discs. Because one, it's you can hit your lines a lot easier, but two, it's just less effort as well. So that's why Drew's game is just amazing, is he can just finesse and control all those different discs and all those different angles, and that's why he made the Era like this. It's not an overstable disc. It's a good disc that fits into his game, where he can just shape it and just maneuver it on all different angles and lines. And so let's take a look at it. Get in it, do it. Now, when you're talking about the feel of the Era feels pretty unique. The closest thing I would compare it to would be the Undertaker. It feels almost like an Undertaker, but the rim is a little bit wider than an Undertaker, and it's a little bit sharper. The Undertaker has a slightly rounded rim, more rounded rim on the edge, when the Era, it's almost like you take a Thunderbird and an Undertaker and you make it like in between those in terms of how sharp the rim is, and that's the Era. Now the Era does feel like the rim is wider. It doesn't just feel it, it's wider, and it feels deeper than an Undertaker. The way I would compare it to would be the Undertaker is definitely more a faster fairway, when the Era is closer to a slower driver, if that makes sense. And I think the numbers reflect that. I think the speed on this is 10 when the Undertaker is 9. Now when you go underneath on the disc, it has these embossed letters on the and it's pretty close to the rim, and they're pretty large. So you got just PDGA approved, the Made in the USA, and then you have Finish Line discs. And I don't know who manufactures this. It feels similar to a Prodigy 400G plastic, but those little engravings or embossed letters on there, it you can feel it definitely when you're gripping. The made in the USA and the PGA approved are a little smoother, but since they're newer discs, a newer disc line, the finish line discs on the other side kind of feels a little rough. So when you put your hand there, you can definitely feel it when you grip. But again, like just move your hand a little bit, and you're completely fine. It feels comfortable. It feels really nice in the hand. The plastic does. It's on the gummier side, so when it gets a little bit warmer, it might get a little too gummy. We'd have to see. In the cold, it's probably like, I think it's in the 30s right now. It's in the 30s with the wind, and it feels pretty good in the 30s right now. But once it gets warmer, I'm assuming it's gonna get kind of gummy. But the flight, I'd compare it to an Undertaker, and again, I would compare it to, so I think the theme of the flight and the feel is the Undertaker is a faster fairway, this is a slower distance driver, and that's how I would compare them, both in feel and flight. When you throw it, it's just a really good flight. I really enjoy this disc. You can just have a little hyzer flip and it kind of turns for you a little bit, and it just goes for a long time and gives you a little fade at the end. It can hold in a decent headwind. Like I've thrown them in like 15-ish mile per hour headwinds, and as long as you throw it clean and release it well and throw it on a slight hyzer, it'll turn a little bit more, but it'll still come back and fight out of it. And so I would describe this as a more finesse driver. It's a really nice one too. It's definitely one of those discs where I can see a lot of amateurs like really trying to crush on it and rip on it, and they're gonna find that this is like way too understable for their arm speed, or at least that's what they're gonna think. Because if you're not throwing it clean, it's pretty easy to turn over, especially in a wind. Like if you have like a 10-mile-an-hour breeze and you crush this and you don't throw it clean, it's just gonna just turn over for you, and you're gonna think it's too understable in the winds. But it's really not. If you throw it clean and you throw it well, this thing can hold a decent wind, and it flies really nice, really, really nice. Drew and Finish Line discs, they say that this is a good driver for most and almost all skill levels, and I would tend to agree with that. Actually, I would say like maybe if you're just starting out, I would look at something like a Leopard or something slower. But if you're like a higher rec player or lower intermediate player, and you're throwing about like 300 to 325 feet maybe max, and you're wanting to dabble in the distance drivers, but like something as fast as like a Wraith or Destroyer are too fast for you, but you're wanting to get something to kind of grow into, this is a really good driver. It would be pretty straight for you and a slightly overstable, and again, it's one of those discs that it's pretty easy to turn over if you don't have clean form. So this will teach you to have good clean form, but when you do throw this with clean form and you get it around like 350, 375-ish range or higher, you can shape just about any line with this, and I really like it. I almost describe it as like a mini Wraith in that sense, where I can just like, you can hyzer flip it, just throw it a bigger hyzer, it'll pop up and just go straight and fade for you. You can throw it with a slight hyzer to pop up and fly straight, or you can throw it flat and have it turn over for you, or a slight Annie and have it hold that Annie the whole way. And this just goes. There's been the category of control driver for a while, but I have never really found one that's like kind of fit in my bag in terms of like it doesn't get much more distance than my T-Birds, or it acts too much like a distance driver. This is like perfectly in between. Like I feel like I have a lot of control over this disc to shape a lot of different lines, and it goes really far, and it's almost like a mini Wraith for me. In the sense that I feel like I'm throwing a Wraith, but it gives you a lot less side-to-side action, so you have a lot more control on those fairways. Now, if it gets really tight, I would still kind of stick to my T-Birds or mid-ranges, but this thing, like, Drew knocked it out of the park with this. It was well done, Drew. I really like this, and it might actually like make my bag, which I haven't added really anything to my bag in years. Like I've been throwing the main things in my bag for a long time, except for putters. I'm always changing my putters out because, let's be honest, I'm terrible at putting. Something's got to work eventually, right? But yeah, that's basically what I think about the Era. I think this disc is great, and is great for those trying to learn how to throw different lines. If you can throw this clean on many different lines, then you can just shred just about any course. And there's a few other discs that are like this, that are, if you can just learn them and shape them on all different lines, it'll just elevate your game that much better. And you can watch that video over here. Anyways, I highly recommend this disc. It's great. We'll see you in the next one.